Hi, my name is Anna. I am the owner of Angie UK Photography. I specialize in maternity, newborn, and family photography. I've only recently started my podcasting journey, so I'm really hoping you are enjoying listening and watching my videos. If you still haven't done it, please hit subscribe button to motivate me, especially at the beginning. Thank you so much to Nationwide Renewables for providing this beautiful podcast Zoom. I really appreciate your support, guys. Thank you. In a world racing towards burnout, we pause to focus on what truly matters. Today on Frames of Life, we speak to someone who knows that the greatest success isn't measured by exhaustion. She will show us how to capture life's beauty without sacrificing ourselves in the whole process. So listen closely, because this conversation may be the reset button you've been searching for. Welcome to Frames of Life. Today's guest is Steph Nelson, stress management and success coach. Hello, Steph.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming. And I know it's not so convenient because what happened recently? Tell the
I
public.
sprained my ankle. I was out trying to relax, the things that I tell my clients to do, and it kind of backfired a little bit. I wasn't paying attention and sprained my ankle. So it's been an interesting week, though. It's quite a good thing to talk about because I've had to really redefine what it means to relax for me, because recently I'd been very much getting out and going, and now I can't as much. So yeah, it was
Thank you
interesting.
for making this effort, Steph. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Yes, absolutely. So I am a stress to success coach, which sounds a little bit vague, but basically I work with high performing women who have been high achievers all their lives. They usually work in the public sector. So for example, teachers, nurses, people who want to help and make an impact in the world, which is amazing. But these women usually sacrifice a lot of themselves in trying to support others. And I know a lot of your audience are mothers, and you have a lot of women who probably fit this criteria of trying to help other people. And what I do is really help them to connect back with what they actually want and who they are as a person, what their interests are, because a lot of these women connect their identity to their job role or to this societal expectation, and they don't have to do that anymore. So we look at what they want, what they are passionate about, redefining their boundaries and ways to support them to still have really big goals and big dreams, but then to be able to actually achieve them in a way that doesn't burn them out. My story is that I was a teacher for 5 years. I still do a little bit of teaching, and I burnt out big time, twice in fact. And it was through my journey of healing and doing a lot of different practices like neuro-linguistic programming, a lot of different sort of therapies, that I kind of ended up doing this work. And I also use a lot of creativity in my work. So a lot of drawing practices, painting practices to help really calm your brain down. And yeah, it's been a wild, amazing journey over the past year. It's been incredible.
Thank you so much for sharing this, Steph. It sounds incredible, and I've seen some work, the art work, and it's something probably I will be checking a bit deeper later. When I prepare myself for the podcast, I always I literally scan social media profiles, websites, if there is available. You talk a lot about redefining success.
Yeah.
Can you take us back and what success used to mean to you before?
Ooh.
And what changed?
Yeah, absolutely. So success to me before used to be more about accolades and getting awards. And so it started off in school for me. I was a really, really high achiever and I struggled socially. I found out later in life that I'm autistic and ADHD, which has a lot to account for some of the struggles I had earlier on in my life. And the thing that I really clung to was school. I was that sort of person who could be really good at it, but had to work really hard at it. So I got like 4 A stars, 9 A's at GCSE, and I just kind of went with that. And then no one kind of tells you that when you reach adulthood, that rug gets pulled out from underneath you. There's no next sprint to be working towards. So then it kind of set myself up with this real people pleasing, trying to get external validation, trying to get promotions. In my case, it was, oh, well, I'll get promoted and then I'll feel like enough because I'll have this job title, or I'll be looking for external people to go, yeah, you've done a really good job, but I never felt that in myself. And actually what you find in that situation is that you don't believe it even when they say it. So even when they're like, yeah, you're doing amazing, because you've conditioned yourself so much to think, no, you just don't believe it. And then that's where the toxic cycle really starts. So that was my prior. I had to do a lot of work on, well, who is this for anyway? Is it for someone else's version of what I should be doing, or is it actually for me and what I want to do and what I want to make me happy? I spent 3 years of my career chasing this promotion, and when I finally got it, I hated it. And it wasn't what I wanted to do, but because I'd conditioned myself thinking, I'll be happy when, I'll be happy if, then yeah, it just doesn't work like that. And that's why with my clients, I go so far into what is it that you actually want? And we do that through visualization, we do that through vision board and manifestation, which some people think is a little woo-woo, but it does work. It really does work.
I think always when there is a personal story behind whatever you do at the moment, it just sounds so much real, authentic, and I think it just gets to the audience straight away, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You covered that a bit when you were introducing yourself, but was there any specific moment in your life when you realized that the version you are chasing, the version of success you are chasing, is actually burning you?
Oh yeah, massively. I think I kind of had two, and the second time I knew what was coming, so I kind of jumped ship sooner. So I mentioned that I went into teaching. I went into teaching straight from university. So I was very young. I was 20, 21, 22, and straight into a job which was very high pressure for someone of my age, someone of my experience with teaching, because I was setting up 2 brand new subjects in a school, without a line manager, without a mentor. It was high pressure. And because all through high school and through college and through university, I'd always been that high achiever, I'd equated that actually I could just work harder and everything was going to be okay, because it had always been okay. And to a certain extent, that was true, that I could just work harder, and I did just push and work harder and harder and harder. But actually then when it got to the point that I wasn't actually eating real meals, I was having like cereal twice a day, which is not good for you, when I wasn't sleeping, when I was constantly stressed, I'm falling asleep at the wheel, like it was extreme. So the first time was in my first teaching job. I left and I kind of tried to escape that, went to a different role thinking, oh, it'll change. And actually, whilst I'd never want to relive those situations, I'm so grateful for it, because actually the common denominator was me. And it wasn't the situation that had to change, it was the deep beliefs that I had that had to change. Because you would put me in any situation, the pattern would just repeat and it would just replay, and we'd be in the same situation, which is what happened. I got the promotion, I got the thing that I wanted, and it was really blooming hard. There's a reason that people who are only in their second year of teaching shouldn't be put into leadership positions, because it's too soon, and it was too soon for me. And I had a lot of family health issues at the time, and I was just like, what is it that I'm doing here? Why am I doing this? It's not making me happy. It's taking me further away from my family. And I just looked at people who were 9, 10 years down the line, and everyone tells you, oh, it gets easier. And I didn't see it getting easier. I just saw people accepting that this was the life, and it's just not the life I wanted for myself. So I made the jump. I decided to quit. I had no plan. I think my boyfriend at the time thought I was absolutely crazy. I have put him through a lot the last year. But it was that gut feeling, knowing that I couldn't keep doing it. And my body told me, after I quit, I ended up having one of the worst panic attacks I've ever had. in the middle of the night. It felt like a heart attack, not to be dramatic, but it was not good. And that's when I was like, yeah, I've made the right decision. And I started my business. So I was teaching art at the time, which I loved, but not doing any art for me and not really doing the things that made me Steph. I wasn't going to the gym. I wasn't connecting with my partner. I wasn't doing art. I was just a shell of a person. And I realized that actually I needed to get back to the very essence of what made me me, because the reason I went into teaching was to help these young people and to help people and have an impact. But I couldn't do that when I was so burnt out and I wasn't showing up for them the way that I wanted to. And it's the exact same now. The reason that I do coaching is because the women that I coach are giving back so much to the people around them. I work with West Yorkshire mental health team, with the NHS supporting nurses. I work with some teachers, and it's incredible, but they need to fill themselves up first before they help anyone else.
But do you think that you would be able to help this much if you were not in the situation yourself?
No.
Because I can see on social media there is a lot of like very positive feedbacks from clients you worked with previously, and it gives me, or to anyone who is coming across your social media profile, it gives this reassurance that yes, she can actually solve my problem.
Yeah.
You just sound like really trustworthy and very authentic.
Yeah.
And I think that you can see in people, in women who are burnout more because you've been there.
I think to a certain extent that's true, but I'd say whatever coaching or work that I've done with clients or with these women, it always comes from yourself. And that's exactly how I've been with coaching. God, I've invested, I wouldn't want to tell you how much over the last year in having coaching myself. And it's just really holding that safe space. And I know that sounds like a bit of a silly term, but holding that space for these women and using the tools such as neuro-linguistic programming to help them come to the answers, because everyone's got it within them. And what I just really want to shine a light on using, for example, my social media, is that you don't have to feel this way forever. You can have the life that you want. You can change. You can still be really, really driven without attaching that to hustle culture, or without having to burn yourself out in the process. Like, you can make massive impact without losing yourself.
Talking about burnout,
Yeah.
what can you notice in women you are working with when they are burnout?
I think it's just they lose like pride in themselves. They just, it's almost like going through the day to day without prioritizing their well-being, in terms of even simple things like you don't care about how you look anymore. It's to me, it was like, I just don't care anymore. Because I think there's a misconception. You can be really, really stressed, and stress is actually a good thing in our lives. It's a crucial part of how we're made up, and we need those spikes to get us up. Like, cortisol gets a bad rep, but it's actually a hormone that wakes us up in the morning. If we didn't have cortisol, like, we wouldn't function. But when you are so burnt out, it's like you just don't care anymore. And that's where it gets really, really dark. Because for me, I was like, well, it doesn't matter if I'm here or if I'm not here. And that's where it gets really scary. And this is what I see in these women, that they are so passionate, and then it's just that passion that dwindles, and it's just going through the motions. I feel like, have you ever seen those films where there's that person who stood still and everyone's like rushing around them, and it's like a blur? That's what it feels like to be burnt out. It feels like you're not actually living your life. You're just a character in it, going through the motions and not feeling. It's a real numb feeling. And I think that's where you need to get some serious help and some advice. That's where you need the intervention, because the stress side, where it's like, oh, I'm really stressed, but you still care and you still want to do it, that's okay, we can deal with that. And what I talk about a lot is recognizing when you're on that downward spiral, because if you do the work before it hits chaos and it hits the crisis point, it's going to be a lot easier. It's never going to be super straightforward because it's going to hurt. There's always going to be some sort of belief that you have to go back into, and sometimes accepting responsibility that sometimes we've put ourselves in these situations, or more that we have the ability to take ourselves out of them and we have the ability to change. And I think that can be sometimes quite an unpopular opinion. But yeah, it'd definitely be that numbness, I'd say.
It's not only interesting, but it's just so deep.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's seriously, it's so amazing. And I'm so grateful that I can actually invite people like yourself and be able to show to my audience, clients who I am already working with, because I've got, as you said, lots of women who are going through pregnancy, hormonal changes, after having baby, their life completely changes.
Oh yeah.
And then they are, making this decision, shall I go back to work, or maybe I don't want to go back to work. I've got some aspirations, some goals. I would like to perhaps change the career. What should I do? They probably have so much more questions to answer, and there is no one there to help them. And yeah, I think people like you, they are very much needed in this world. And that's why I wanted to do this podcast, because people who I know, my friends, they don't know about you. They don't know that Steph Nelson exists and actually can help them to solve their problems. Steph, why do you think defining your own version of success is so important in burnout recovery?
Oh, it's massively important, because usually the thing that's got someone into burnout is following someone else's path. Burnout is just a sign that you're misaligned with what you actually truly want. So if you don't define what you want your life to look like, you get so much noise from around you of what you should be doing and what you should be wearing and where you should be going, especially like your audience, which is new mums, and the pressure on how they should be raising their child and what they should be looking like after having a baby. And there's a lot of noise on social media, and we have been conditioned, even before social media, there was magazines and TV shows, to see everyone's highlight reels and expect that we should be at a certain point in our lives by a certain time. I mean, I still get this now. I'm 27, and I often go to networking events and meet amazing women who are in their 40s and 50s, and they're like, oh, I wish I knew what you knew when you're 27. But I don't see that still. I see the person who's 25 or 24 and they're really ahead. So I think it's just releasing the pressures of society and what other people want for you. And sometimes that can even mean your family and the people closest to you. In most healthy relationships, family relationships, everyone just wants safety and security. And quite often, for example, starting a new business or going out on a whim and doing something new, that's scary. And especially if you don't have people who have done that before. So when you have that clarity of that vision of what you want your life to look like, then it's so much easier when diversions come up that you can just come back to it and go, no, this is why I'm doing it. And I think you have to have a balance between what you want your life to look and feel like, because I talk a lot about that, about how do you feel in your day-to-day versus what's the future that you're building. And people kind of flip-flop between the two. Is it live all for the moment, or is it build a future that's really safe and secure? And actually, I think there's probably a balance between the two. I think if you scroll everything away into the future, then the now can be a little bit miserable. But if you don't have any future planning, then you're not setting yourself up with that security. So I think really thinking, what would my ideal day be like in the situation that I'm currently in. There's an amazing book called Feel Good Productivity by Ali Abdaal, and he talks about what would this look like if it was fun. So for example, you might have a 9 to 5 job that you're finding a little bit difficult, but how could you make that more fun? Could it be by having just something like a nice drink on your desk, or could it be having some nice pictures of your family to remind you of what you're doing this for? Because I think the notion that you can throw in the towel and go live this lavish lifestyle in Dubai and you can be making millions within 6 months, I think it's rubbish, and it puts so much pressure on people to think that they're just not good enough. And that is the biggest limiting belief that I see. People have this belief that I'm not good enough. And it comes from so many different places. Every single person who I found with that belief has got it from a different place. But it is a common denominator of we all just feel like we're not good enough. And if we break free from that, going, well, what does my life look like? What is it that I want? And stick fast to that, then it releases a lot of pressure and it makes you feel happier in the long run.
Shall we talk a little bit about the whole process? Because I'm really curious myself. What does the journey of redefining success actually look like in your coaching program?
Yeah, absolutely. So I made a framework called the Create Framework, and it came from the fact that my business started in creativity, and I still use a lot of that. Create stands for clarity, resilience, empowerment, alignment, transformation, and expression. So we've just spoken a lot about vision. We get so clear on where the person wants to be. I use a lot of principles of positive psychology. Now, you might have heard of psychology before, and usually psychology is getting someone who's feeling low back to base zero, which is, I'm okay, I can cope with life. Well, positive psychology is where you help someone to thrive, and what would that look like for them to be really loving life and in flow and just really experiencing everything around them. So it's using those principles of, well, what would that look like? So the clarity is the vision on what do you want your life to look like. Resilience is looking at, actually, how do I implement the boundaries in my life? What do I need to do to protect this? How do I cope with setbacks that perhaps from other people might not align with the vision that I've got? And sometimes that communication. Empowerment's probably my absolute favorite bit of looking at how you can feel different, because I think quite often when people are struggling, they quite often feel like, well, this is it. I'm never going to feel better. Life is awful. And I've been there. I know how that feels, and I know how that can breed quite difficult thoughts of, well, there's only one way out, and that's not the answer. There's always an opportunity for you to feel better. Yeah, it might take time and work to feel that way, but there is that chance to feel better. So what we do is we take people through the whole process over usually around 6 sessions, building their confidence, building their energy, and just really giving them the tools to support themselves. I use a lot of reflective practices in my work, like creative journaling, so that in between sessions, the clients can do some of the exercises themselves.
Which is very helpful.
Yeah, because I've been there in a session with a coach before and had this huge breakthrough, and then 2 days later I'm having a little bit of a wobble, and I need to be able to work through that. So I've developed so many templates and tools that you can go back through and you can look at, okay, what is the actual issue here? And the thing is, at the start, what you'll be doing, there's 2 parts of your brain. So there's the conscious, which is the one that we're aware of, and there's the subconscious, which is running a lot of the show, and it has all of our belief systems which have been built since we were a child, and that makes a lot of the decisions. And at first, what will happen when you start doing personal development work is it can feel like your 2 brains are fighting against each other, because all the subconscious mind wants for you is safety and security. But that can sometimes come in the guise of something that isn't helpful, a pattern or a behavior or a habit that isn't helpful, but it's familiar. So it's not as scary as the unknown. And what you do when you are doing personal development work is you go and you really, really look at where did these come from? And this is what neuro-linguistic programming is. And you go, well, as me now doing this work, what do I know about that situation now? So for example, if something happened to you as a child, you can go back to that kind of memory and whatever belief that you made it mean about you, and look at, well, was that about me, or was it actually just adults at the time trying to meet their own behavioural needs? Because this is something that so many people don't know. There's two things there which I think are incredible. Number one, all behaviour that anyone does is just them trying to meet a need. And there's different needs. There's something called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The base is that we need to be physically safe. And then it goes all the way up to self-actualization, which is like enlightenment, which it sounds a little bit woo-woo.
Yeah.
But every single person is trying to meet a need. So if someone, for example, bullied you in high school, they were trying to meet a need for power because they weren't getting that from somewhere else in their life.
It all makes sense.
So as an adult, you can go back and go, well, that was never about me. And you can kind of, it's like releasing shackles, of releasing the burden of that I'm not enough belief that you'd attach to yourself as a child, and going, I don't have to think like that anymore. And then the other part of that is your thoughts aren't facts, which is,
we've done that a week ago, also a couple of weeks ago. Yes.
Yes,
It's amazing.
It's incredible. But on the flip side of that, you tell your brain something enough, it will believe it. So your brain doesn't know the truth or false.
Okay.
So if you tell yourself that you're not enough, you're not enough, you're not enough, then it'll start to believe that, because you're conditioning yourself to believe that. So then when you just rewire it and put in the positive ones over time, then it'll make you feel better over time. It's not easy, but it just shows that if the negative is true and the negative has been imprinted this way, then all we have to do is just rewind it and do it the other way.
Put a bit of work.
Yeah.
And keep reminding ourselves and be practicing.
Yes.
Because the theory is not the only thing. Yes, as you said, you can get very excited, but the amazing thing is that you're actually doing some practical work with people you're working with.
Yeah.
Because that's very, very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm absolutely loving this therapy, today's therapy. What myths then around success do you find most harmful in high achieving women?
The idea that rest is going to stop you from getting where you want to be. The opposite is true. That is essential. And I sit there saying that now, but I've definitely been on that other side of going, well, no, if there's this thing that needs a lot of work, because these women are working on projects that do require a lot of work. They are high impact people. So there's this idea that, well, it requires this much work, so I'll just do this much work, and then you just keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going. And it's also the feeling that if you stop, then you're just going to fall behind, and you feel, all of these women, the one thing that I see them all say all the time is that they feel like they're on a hamster wheel, and they're just constantly chasing and chasing and chasing and chasing, and almost feeling like they can't catch a breath because it's the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And I've been there, I've done it. And the harsh truth is that you need to look at, well, what does rest look like to me? Because everyone's different. And I think this is another part of the myth of, oh, well, it's got to look a certain way, rest is such and such. But that's not true, especially if you add in someone who's neurodivergent, because their brains work different. So for example, I can't sit down and watch TV all the way through. I just can't. My idea is not switching off, it's switching over. So I've got to put my brain onto something else, because if I'm not using my brain, it'll run away with itself.
Okay.
And a lot of these women who are struggling with burnout and struggling with them all-consuming thoughts, it's the same. So if they go for, I don't know, go watch TV or go try and relax in the typical sense, they're just thinking and thinking and thinking, and the brain's still on, even though the body's in whatever they're doing. And this is where disconnect with partners and family members can come up, because physically you're there, but you're not actually mentally enjoying the time with them. So what I like to say is find things that actually engage you and look at what you enjoy to do. So for some people, it might be doing sports. I love weightlifting because I can't think about anything else, because if I did, I'd hurt myself. Or for example, is it that you like being in water or you like being in nature, and that helps you. So really, really looking at what sort of rest you need, rather than thinking there's a one way that everyone needs to sit down on the sofa at night and watch TV, and that if you're not doing that, then you're not resting. I think as well, there's myths about that they should be able to do this by themselves, and that if you don't seek help, or if you do seek help rather, that's a sign of weakness, and that it means that you're not good enough. When actually the strongest people are the people who admit that they don't know everything and they don't need to. And for so long I did this, and when I got promoted, I was head of department for a teaching team, and I built up a bit of a complex going, well, I can just work 10 times as hard and do it 10 times as fast, rather than trying to explain it to someone else for them to do it, for me to then correct it. And it was a vicious cycle, but that just creates a rod for my own back, because then people start to expect you to just be able to do it and to be able to pick it up and to be able to just keep going like that. And when you finally admit that, oh, well, actually, I don't know how to do this, or I'm struggling with the workload or something like that, then that's a scarier situation, because you've gone along with this idea for so long, and you've almost created this character of yourself. So admitting that all successful people need help. They'll have assistance, or even just, you know what the biggest help this year has been? Finding people who I can have conversations like this with, because not everyone in your life is for every part of your life. And your family, for example, you love them dearly. If you start having these conversations about personal development, they haven't done the work, so they're not going to understand. And that doesn't mean that your relationship is fractured. It just means you need to find places where you can have those conversations. And it's the same as your friends. Your friends are the people that you want to relax with and hang out with. And of course, they'll support you. But I think finding different groups of people for different things has been the biggest game changer. And like going networking, or even like mums groups, having people who are experiencing the thing that you're going through at that time is so important. And that's why, for example, I run a membership, because all the women in there are very like-minded. Most of them are business owners, which was not my intention when I started it, but they're having the same challenges, so they can support each other. And that has been the best thing over the past year. I've made the best friends and met the most incredible people, and yeah, it's amazing.
It's absolutely amazing, and I totally agree with everything what you're saying. Making awareness of those amazing people is also so important, because as we said before, like people on the other side who are listening, they may not even know that something like this you are specializing in exists, and how many people it can actually potentially help. And regarding networking events, game changer, as you said. I always say when I personally like the one in Harrogate because I like the little drive on my own. It takes me 40 minutes to go to Harrogate. And it's relaxing. It's not during the day. I know my kids are already sleeping in bed, so I can just, relax. And I was saying to Corina recently that every time I take something for myself, even if it's a one sentence, it will just stay with me. And this is the reason why I keep going, because yes, these people, they are people who going through the same things as we do. They are having the same challenges. And it's just so lovely because with friends, we don't get this kind of conversations. Yes, we do, but it's not going to be on the same level because they are doing, different professions, maybe self-employed people. They are going through some different challenges than people who are employed. So it's really, really important. And also I agree with the fact where you said that people come and go. So in this period of your life, you are having some friends, you are socializing with. They are really helpful in building, something amazing around you and them. But then after, it's time for them to go. And it doesn't have to end up with any, big argument. This is not what I'm talking about. But yes, they are just sometimes for some just period of time.
And I think that can be one of the most challenging things to realize, that actually during this development of yourself, sometimes you do have to let go of people. Or put boundaries in place. Perhaps if it's family members, it may be more having better boundaries about the conversations that you have and the things that you are sharing. But it's worth it in the long run.
I am under the impression that some people may be getting completely wrong burnout recovery and redefining the success. What's something most people get wrong about these things?
It's not about, one, it's not quick. It can take a long time, but it's about baby steps. So I think people think that you've got to upheave your entire life and you've got to quit your job and you've got to get rid of your partner and you've got to whatever, you've got to burn relationships with your family, and that's not going to help. But it is about slowly, like we said, going back to what do you want, taking stock of the situation that you're in, how you got into that situation in the first place. Because for example, with me, I love teaching. If I could have certain situation, I would do it forever. Like, I love helping people, and that's why I love coaching so much, because there's a lot of parallels between it. And the reasons that I went into teaching is I'd been working with young people all through being a teenager, through volunteering. So I had to really look at, well, what had got me there in the first place? Yes, teaching has high workload. Yes, it's a stressful job, but actually, and I remember this so clearly, one of my managers had gone to her really struggling with my workload, and she's like, well, Stephanie, you just need to stop putting so much pressure on yourself. And at that moment I walk away and I'm like, screw you, and now I look back at that and go, yeah, you were right. You were so right. And so I had to really look at, okay, so what are the patterns that I had repeated through my life? Because this was the second time, right? It wasn't coincidence that actually the school had changed, the situation had changed, a lot had changed, but the pattern was the same. So I had to really look at, well, why I was there in the first place. And then it was making small changes over time. People kind of think that you can go into a coaching session and that it's going to change your entire life and your beliefs are going to be gone and blah, blah. I don't believe that. I think people sell these breakthrough sessions for thousands of pounds, and this might be quite controversial. It takes time. It takes time because there's so many layers and there's so many things that'll crop up, and there's this idea that you're either burnt out or you're healed. And I don't think that is the black or white of it. I think it is a longer journey that takes experience and going, okay, actually, I need to now look at this. So I looked at one belief that got me into that situation. okay, I feel good, I feel good, I feel good. And then something else hits you and you're like, I don't feel good. Okay, so now I need to look at this. Okay, keep going, keep going, keep going. And it's life. It's not that you either are or you're not. I think it's also about how you speak to yourself, because what can often happen when someone is healing is they can feel, it's a really silly spiral of, you go, okay, so I now recognize that this thing is unhelpful. And then you feel guilty for feeling a bad emotion, but then you feel guilty for feeling bad about the bad emotion. And it can sometimes feel, quite honestly, like you wish you were naive again and that you didn't know any of it. But actually that's where you go, okay, well, how far did I come from? Where am I now? Okay, I'm going to keep moving forwards. And it's not an easy path, but it's worth it. It's 100% worth it. But it's not for the faint-hearted. It's going to bring up a lot of experiences, a lot of memories that you haven't even thought about for such a long time, and now you're like, oh wow, that happened and that had this impact on me. Because people have this misconception as well that beliefs come from massive traumatic life events. That's not always true, of course. It can be true, but it could just be a way that someone looked at you in your class and you interpreted it the wrong way, or the stacking up of the teacher giving you a tut again and again and again made you feel like you weren't enough. But actually, it's not a big thing. And so it's a journey.
Yes, because we are all very different.
Yeah.
The whole idea of doing this podcast, it was for me that when I invite specialists and professionals who can help us a bit to navigate our life with more clarity and purpose, was so my audience will be able to take away something for themselves after 20, 30 minutes of listening, which you just shared so many amazing things already. But for someone who is listening and feeling very burnout and completely disconnected from their version of success, where do they start?
Yeah, so we've spoke about it quite a lot. I would start with, what do you want from your life? And you can do this by, there's a lot of guided visualizations on the internet. Now, people have misconceptions that with a visualization you need to see images, and you don't. It can be a feeling and it can be thoughts or words that come up in your head. So I would go, what would my ideal day look like? And usually you'll imagine whatever it is that you want from your life. For some people it'd be a really slow morning, it'd be really relaxing. For some people it's very much get up and go. Then you'd look at, okay, so where am I now, and how different is that version from where I am now? What would need to change in order for me to be living that life? So for example, it might be that you need to start working on a fitness routine, or you need to start working on a nutrition meal plan, or whatever it might be. And then you look at, okay, well, what's the tiniest step that I can take in that direction? So if you'd imagined yourself in the morning getting up out of bed, doing some journaling, going for a walk, could it be that you start by doing literally stepping out the front door? And this sounds really silly. And when I first got told it by my coach, I was like, what do you mean go to the gym for 2 minutes? That's stupid. Why would I do that? But it's true. Just the fact of, okay, well, I have won if I have just done the micro step. And usually if you've driven yourself all the way to the gym and you've gone inside the gym, you're probably going to stay there for longer than 2 minutes. You might do a little walk, or you might do something. So it's, what is the minimum viable, we talk about minimum viable product in business, but what is the minimum viable marker for you to feel closer to your, whatever your version of success is? Is it that actually you're starting a business and you need to obviously market your business? So could it be, well, I'm just going to post one Instagram post, or I'm just going to do one action that's going to move me closer. And then you build on it and you build on it and you build on it. I think it's getting so clear on what that goal is, and then breaking it down into the teeny tiny steps. So I've just done this today. I'd advise anyone to do this. When I plan my week, I look at what are my big goals for the year of things that I want to work on. So at the moment, I've got a contract with the NHS that I'm working on. So one of my goals for this week is to record some of the videos for that. Okay, so then I break that down even further. I need to script the videos. I need to plan the presentation for the videos. I need to edit the presentation for the videos. I need to actually film the video. I need to edit the video. So by breaking those down, I can then go, well, that's actually micro steps. That one big thing that I've got, that is quite a big one that I've got to do a lot of work to tick off that one thing.
Yeah.
But if you're breaking it down into a shorter list, a longer list of smaller steps, go, okay, I'm making progress, I'm making progress, I'm making progress. And that momentum builds momentum. So by you feeling like you're ticking things off, then you're more likely to want to carry on, rather than going, oh my God, I still haven't ticked off this massive thing. So I think the biggest advice that I would give in all of this is smaller steps will add up to bigger steps. Because if you try and do the 10x jump, you're just going to freak yourself out, get overwhelmed, and then you're going to stop. But if you just push yourself a little bit at a time with accountability, which is one of my favorite things, having people that you can go, please can you check in with me and check that I've done this thing? Can you give, like I say to my partner all the time, it's like, can I have a little reward? Like, gamify it. Honestly, I have considered this week getting a sticker chart, because especially for my brain, the way that it works, I need to visually see things.
But I'm the same. Like I'm working on small steps, but I can already see, I am there without putting this work, and it's not possible. And my partner is really busy now as well, with checking on me. I said, can you please remind me about this? Or can you just please check if I've done that? This is really very, very important.
I think as well, for these really high achieving women who want to make an impact, they want it all now. And you can have anything you want. I believe that you are so capable of being wildly successful, but just extend the timeline a little bit. Like, you don't need to solve world peace by Thursday afternoon. Just make it a bit longer. Give yourself time to breathe. You'll get there. Like, one of my favorite things is the amount of wildly successful people that we look up to. And they didn't start their businesses till they were like in the 40s, 50s, later. And you've got time. I went to an amazing conference last year called Anything is Possible. And the whole premise of that day was, you're right on time. You're not behind. You're not too early. You're right on time. Whatever decision you make now, you are on time. You have got time. You're going to be okay.
Steph, I am really amazed by everything we're doing, because there are things which are, some of them very obvious, but when you break it down into steps like you did now, despite we spoke about this before for a while, but when you really put everything, do this, and that, that's when your brain starts working and analyzing everything. So I'm so sorry if I am looking at you very deeply, but my brain now is just processing, and I definitely...
Let's do a session. I'll do a session with you.
Oh yes.
Not right now.
You heard that.
Not right now.
I've got it.
I'll message you with my link and you can book a session in.
Yeah, thank you so much. No, definitely. I am up for everything what is regarding on working on yourself, improving yourself. I think this is just like the best thing we can do to ourselves. Invest in ourselves. Do you think once we do all the work, should we somehow protect our new version of success in daily life? And if yes, how?
Yeah, absolutely. Because daily life throws up so many curveballs that can make you question yourself and make you think, oh, is this the right thing? And I think one of the biggest ways to do this is to communicate to those around you, because they will notice a shift in you. When you do this work, you do kind of step from current identity, because a lot of the women that I serve, I see them holding on to this identity of I must work like this, and they've kind of intermingled the burnout with who they are. And then when you break free from that and you become this new identity that's a lot freer, a lot clearer on what you want, the people around you are going to notice that. And you want to bring them along for the ride, because at the end of the day, you've got to ask yourself, for what purpose am I doing this? Well, I'm doing this to be happy. Well, you're not doing this to be a happy island, are you? We are sociable people. We want people to be around us. So you're doing it so that you can be the best version of yourself with your partner, with your family, with your children, with your friends, whoever it may be. So you want to communicate to them the things that you've had to change in order to get there. So for example, one thing that you can do is practice saying no to things that don't serve you anymore. And this could be so simple. If you struggle with people pleasing, where you have the tendency to want to overgive to people and try and meet their needs before your own, this could be really difficult. So start by little things, like if someone asks you if you want a coffee in the office, tell them exactly how you want your coffee, rather than just going, yeah, that's fine. Because every time that you're not doing the thing that you actually want to do, you're moving further away from yourself. It's also about making sure you're communicating that you need space for rest and for play and for creativity. You might actually do that with your partner or whoever you live with at home, but communicating that you need this time for yourself to process. A lot of the work that we do does require quite deep processing of emotions and trauma and perhaps identity work as well. And that's going to bring up a whole load of things, and it's going to perhaps bring up some conversations with people in your life that they kind of need to be aware of, that you're going through this and you're doing this work. But again, bring it back to that core purpose of why you're doing this, because people can't argue with that. If you went to your partner and said, look, I'm feeling like this at the moment and I want to feel like this, so this is the road to get me there. If they're a good partner, they're going to want you to be happy.
Yeah.
And this is the same with friends and family. My biggest advice whenever doing any of this communication is always bring it back to, this is how this made me feel, this is how I feel, rather than going, you do this, you do that, blah, blah, blah. Because whenever anyone feels under attack, they're going to shut down. And do it gently. Don't try and unpick everything at once, just a little bit at a time. But yeah, protecting the new version of yourself is so important. And regular check-ins with yourself. People do this in different ways. I go through flopping all over the place how I do it. Sometimes I journal for ages in the morning. Sometimes it's just a quick check-in. But recognizing how are you feeling right now, and what does your body need? What does your mind need? What do you emotionally need? And how you can give that to yourself. That's one of the biggest things to keep it going. Because like I said earlier, this work's a journey. It's not a finish, a start and end point. It's a journey. So you got to keep checking in with yourself and seeing what you need.
And if you could go back to your burnout self and tell her one thing, what would this be?
Oh, this is hard. That she's going to be okay. Yeah. That she's going to be okay and she's going to get through it.
Stop, because you will make me feel emotional. That's not. I don't want people to see me crying. No, I'm joking. I can.
But it's true. It's so true. At the time,
everything feels so big and scary.
Everything feels so big and scary. And you're the only one going through that. And that's also not true. You're not on your own. And if you talk about it, you're more likely to find that other people have experienced it too. And that people get through to the other side. And that the other side is, it's so beautiful.
So amazing.
I would never, ever want to relive some of the things that I went through in the last 5 years, but my God, am I grateful for them.
Absolutely.
So grateful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be here. Perhaps you could be here.
I
but
wouldn't.
You wouldn't.
There's
This is
been
what I would
several situations over the past 5 years where I was very close to not being here. And if I can just help one person not be in that situation, I will be a very happy person.
What does the success mean to you now in this, I believe, beautiful chapter in your life?
It's calm, but my version of calm is not the slow, peaceful kind of Zen yoga. Like that's not my thing. My calm is knowing that I've got a support system around me, that when something goes wrong, that they're going to be there for me. It's knowing that I have tools so that when my brain starts running away with itself, which it does, it still does, that I can bring it back and I can rationalize through things and it's all going to be okay. And it's like this deep sense of peace that I've got this toolkit now, and no matter what happens, I'm going to be okay because I know how to use it.
How to deal with it.
And I think that's the biggest misconception. People think that once you become a stress management coach, you're never stressed. My God, I'm stressed like 5 times a week. Like, it still happens. I still get those spikes, but then I'm like, okay, I know what to do now.
That this podcast, they've got so much value that this is not something that you listen one-off. Life gets so busy.
Oh, so busy.
We listen to it. We'll probably implement some things, within a couple of days. We will forget.
Yeah.
So listen on repeat and just try to implement as much as possible.
And that's okay. I think trying to change everything at once is impossible and silly, and we shouldn't do that. But if you can just do one small action at a time, like I spoke about earlier, you are going to get yourself so much further and see the longevity of it. And that's the place that I'm in now, seeing the longevity. If you burn yourself out, especially for these women who want to make an impact, they want to help people, you're not going to do it. And that's the harsh truth. If you burn yourself out, you're not going to be able to make that impact. But if you do it over a longer period of time, who knows what will happen. Like, life is beautiful. It throws curveballs. It's amazing. And you're going to be okay.
I think it's also very important to, as you were saying before, to accept yourself fully and embrace even, this is just, jumping into another subject again, but just quickly, I had a recently very bad panic attack. And I know probably I won't be talking about like this now because we don't have enough time, but I know exactly what tools I should use to prevent it, but at that time I didn't.
Yeah.
And I still, how I say, when I say to someone, because even when I spoke to you on the phone, I told you straight away that this, happened to me. And I am grateful for it. I am talking about the panic attack happened to me in a very passionate way because I know it happened for something.
Yeah.
I know it happened because I should have been using the tools I've got to prevent it, and I didn't.
I want to stop you there because we're using that language of should. I think it's great that you're so aware, but I think sometimes when we put that pressure on that I should have done this, I should have done that, that's playing out the same narratives in the same language. And I think the one thing that I would say to people is how you talk to yourself is so important. And you can recognize that maybe this should have happened, or maybe you would have done things differently, and just do that going forwards. Because life is about forward momentum. We can't change what happened.
Absolutely, yes.
We absolutely can't change.
I don't feel guilty that, I haven't done what I've done. I know what I could have, but I still didn't, and it's fine. Yeah. And it's fine. It happened for something, and I know why it happened now. It just, I realized that very quickly. I didn't have to wait too long to realize it happened for something. Steph, where can people go and connect with you?
So my Instagram is Create Calm with Steph, and on there you'll find out possible ways to work with me, any masterclasses that I've got coming up, which is really exciting. And it is Create Calm with Steph on all socials, YouTube, Instagram and Facebook.
I am absolutely amazed that you came here despite your ankle is still not good. I am so sorry, but we had to catch up. Thank you so much for your time and for everything what you shared with us.
Thank you so much.
I think I got so much more than I was expecting, and I'm really, really grateful for it. Recently, I've been listening to Stephen Bartlett's podcast. I don't know if you're listening to him sometimes. He had Lisa Feldman, I think she's a top neuroscientist, and she said something that really got stuck in my head. And I think this is the way I would like to end this podcast. She said, sometimes in your life, you are responsible for changing something, not because you are to blame, but because you are the only person who actually can. Thank you for listening, guys. Thank you.